Welcome so much. This is the Youth Apprenticeship webinar program highlight. We're going to focus on a great apprenticeship program, youth apprenticeship program that was pulled together at high school, and we're going to have some great sort of setting the stage. And then happy National Apprenticeship Week. This is a national event to celebrate all the work that all of you are doing and that we're all really doing to push the agenda forward, because this is one of those solutions that makes sense for employers and for our young people alike. So we wanted to take some time to celebrate. In that spirit, the mayor has made a proclamation of the importance of National Apprenticeship Week. Thank you, Cassandra, for going in the rain to pick that up. But we wanted to sort of share that. It's going to be posted on social media as well as on our website. So if you want to read more about why we believe that this matters, feel free to kind of take a look. Next, we are really excited to be sharing the Apprenticeship PHL Symposium. It is going to be happening February 1st through the 12th. We're going to have a dynamic group of speakers in 3 different tracks talking about apprenticeships from the perspective of employers, for the perspective of community organizations, higher ed, K through 12, potential sponsors, and really have reached deep conversations around how do we go from building one apprenticeship to really enriching the ecosystem that we have here in Philadelphia. Follow us on social media to learn more. And then today's agenda, we're gonna start with some welcome and introductions of our amazing panelists. We're gonna have some awesome folks from the DOL share, some grounding around youth apprenticeship and get us all on the same page about sort of what are all the different options look like. And then the awesome folks at Audenried and GPHA are going to share about their specific model, and then we'll have some time for dialogue and further questions. So with that, we're going to start with our presenters from the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Apprenticeship here in Philadelphia. Jim Fody and Ron Leonard have agreed to join us and sort of set the stage around youth apprenticeship. And then after they've sort of set that, we're going to pass it on to Aubrey Carrollgan, who's at Universal Audenried Charter Schools, helped to build this program alongside Sarah Lai from Greater Philadelphia Health Action. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and ask Jim and Ron to take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Maria. I'm not 100% sure Ron is on. He was stuck. As you know, National Apprenticeship Week is our busiest week of the year. Ron, have you made it on yet? It's no big deal. I'm sure he will probably join us in progress. I've only been working on these issues for about 30 or 40 years, so I guess you probably have to live with me for a while, although Ron knows a lot more of the local perspective. But anyway, I want to say welcome to National Apprenticeship Week, and a special shout out to Philadelphia Works and all the partners at Apprenticeship PHL. It's great to work with you in youth apprenticeship and in the other areas of apprenticeship and other training that we've been working on. I see some familiar faces in the participant list. So love to see you folks, and hope that we can provide some useful information, particularly like 1199C, Wistar, a number of folks that we're working closely with. Now, preparing young people for careers, that's what youth apprenticeship is about. It uses a combination of paid work experience and classroom instructions. It kind of marries the theory and the practice. So students get experience while they earn some money and learn. It's about bridging education and work, systematically, for young people. it's something that we really miss. We've missed in our high school to college setup or high school to work, setup. We haven't really married those approaches, and I think youth apprenticeship gives us the opportunity, to do that. Youth apprenticeship is registered apprenticeship. Apprentices are paid. This is differentiated from pre-apprenticeship, which is often not paid. And I have to go back to. I don't have the exact age right now, but the average age of an apprentice in the U.S. is probably 27 or 28 years old, which is much different from our European colleagues and other places around the world where they go straight from high school into an apprenticeship. Sometimes it's mixed with college or a degree apprenticeship. Sometimes it's it's straight to the workplace and getting skills, but also learning. So I think we've got to do a little bit better job here at kind of marrying these, the education part with the work part, giving folks some exposure to careers so they know what to expect once they're out of school. So quality apprenticeships, and as I said, youth apprenticeship is a registered program. They can provide students with paid, relevant work experiences while also acquiring skills and credentials that business wants. And as I said, pathways to high-paying careers. So from the other hat that I wore, formerly I was director of National Health Career Association, which is the largest provider of health certifications, for the non-licensed healthcare occupation. So I've got a little bit of experience with healthcare jobs. I certainly prefer the apprenticeship model. It has not been used as much until now, but now with all the hoopla about apprenticeship, it's been great, to see these translating into good jobs and good paying career opportunities for young people. And of course, there are pre-apprenticeship programs as well, internships and externship, approaches, which are more traditional, as we've done in the past. And some of those are good approaches as well. One thing that often goes missed is providing good career information for young people. I think that's something that we need to do a lot better. Connecting the dots, on a career ladder. We're the policy people, we're the folks that put these things together. So youth apprenticeship actually exposes them to more career opportunities because they're in the workplace. They're learning what skills are essential and what skills are valuable to their future and what skills can help them, along the way for better earnings capability. So let me talk about youth apprenticeship for just a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about our investments at the Department of Labor. And if you talk about youth apprenticeship, you got to give a special shout out to New America and PAYA, which has been doing so much good work in youth apprenticeship. And so I've got some friends over that way too, and I'm so glad that they made those investments, and they really set a lot of the groundwork. The only difference between a youth apprenticeship and a traditional registered apprenticeship is that I guess there is a age contingent, and the age is typically 16 to 24. Now, some of the healthcare jobs, as you know, have an 18-year, starting point. So that is a bit challenging when it comes to medical assistants, because a lot of these young people, in their junior and senior year of high school are ready to start, but they're not able to work. So I know we're bridging some of those gaps as time goes on. We could also front load a lot of the credentialing side of it, of the apprenticeship, or as we talked before about doing pre-apprenticeship programs. So there are ways of getting around these things, but we're excited to be working on these. So we talk a little bit about some of the models. Youth apprenticeship also, it gives folks to look at multiple pathways to after high school, to enroll in college, to enter an apprenticeship program, to begin full-time employment, or any combination thereof. So in addition to the high school diploma, many apprenticeship programs offer students dual enrollment in college and also the opportunity to learn, as I mentioned before, about industry-recognized credentials. So, a pre-apprenticeship program, on the other hand, is a bit different. It's a defined set of strategies to prepare individuals for entry into the registered apprenticeship system. So, and potentially other, jobs. So, so that being a difference, and often this is can be in conjunction with getting a high school diploma. It can also be in conjunction with getting some college credit as well. It depends on how the systems are aligned. Now, upon completion of a pre-apprenticeship program, participants are encouraged to transition to the local community college or enter the workforce, through an apprenticeship program. So I'll talk just a little bit about some of our investments. Well, first of all, Ron, are you on yet? Ron Leonard? Because I wanted to give him an opportunity to talk about some of the local models, but I guess he didn't make it. So we may have to chime in, Ron, towards the end, if that's okay, Marie.
He's right here.
Oh, is Ron there?
Okay, maybe experiencing technical difficulties.
They don't let us download Zoom for our government computers, as you know. So it's a little challenging on our end. Ron, did you get on? Are you able to speak? Okay, don't worry about it. Ron, if you can hear me, when you get on, just please chime in. I'll talk a little bit about the investments, and then hopefully Ron will be able to get on a little bit later and talk about some of the local programs. DOL has been making really important investments to help grow apprenticeship programs across the country, as everyone knows. From the fall of 2017 to the summer of 2019, we've really beefed up our awards to state programs, to industry and equity partnerships, to marketing and outreach. And we've definitely beefed up our technology to help our our systems to provide better access to our systems for apprenticeship sponsors. So now a couple of the investments that we've made are in youth apprenticeship intermediaries. I think folks know those four contractors. They all were around this summer when we did our group, and that includes ICF, Jobs for the Future, Net America, and the Urban Institute. Those are four youth apprenticeship contractors, and they've been tasked to promote sustainable development of youth apprenticeship programs to build pipelines for in-school youth into apprenticeship programs. And they're focusing across the country on a broad array of occupations in different sectors, particularly those with skill shortages. They also want to raise the quality of youth apprenticeship programs. They kind of bring in business more and bring in employers and educational institutions together to help design and deliver stronger programs. So and also strengthen the business and education partnerships, which are very important. I won't get into a lot of the details, but each one of them is focusing on particular areas. So if anybody wants to ask questions about that, I'd be absolutely happy to respond. Now we also had a $42 million program, which was just a hang on a second, where is it? Youth Apprenticeship Awareness Grants. Which was just a few months ago. DOL awarded to 14 organizations to increase these programs, which is a lot more than the contract. So all of that information is on our website. As you know, this is a very, very growing area, and so we're excited about this. These opportunities and a lot of the partners that we're working with to expand youth apprenticeship. What else? Is there anything else I could talk to before I turn it over? Oh yeah, our website is very good. There's a lot of good information on apprenticeship.gov. There are things for educators. There are things for schools, particularly for high schools or colleges. We also have a partnership with Scholastic, which has been very fruitful to this point. We have a large grant program with the American Association of Community Colleges. So we're definitely doing a lot more to marry some of those more traditional apprenticeship side with the education systems, both secondary and post-secondary. So I think with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Maria, unless Ron joined. If he didn't, he can always, we'll always get on shortly. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
We can with a bit of echo, Ron. Can you mute your computer?
Yeah, I just did.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about the delay. I had a 4-hour meeting that was scheduled for 3. Thanks for taking it to this point, Jim. All right, I'd just like to cover a few things on behalf of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Essentially, the value of apprenticeship isn't lost on the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth has proposed to double the size of apprenticeship, the number of apprentices in the state by 2025 to 30,000, and they're well on their way for that. They've incorporated it as part of their plan, their workforce development plan. And just 2 quick bullets which are in their plan. The Commonwealth will increase the creation of registered pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs, particularly in non-traditional occupations. Another bullet, they'll increase recruitment efforts of registered pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs to increase the number of individuals from non-traditional populations such as women, minorities, and persons with disabilities in these programs. Now, the important thing about that all is the whole statement. However, what's unique about it for Pennsylvania, it's one of very few states that has pre-apprenticeship, which is registered. That is, it's just not helter-skelter running all about. There's a standard. And essentially, as Jim pointed out, I was able to hear most of your presentation, Jim, but unfortunately, I had severe difficulties with the audio. The pre-apprenticeship should lead to a registered apprenticeship, ideally. That's the goal all around. The idea of registering pre-apprenticeship programs in Pennsylvania, it helps to focus, give guidance from the state, and if there's any particular funding available or grants available during that particular year, those are the ones that are essentially right up there in line to obtain that, if possible. A few statistics about apprenticeships in the Commonwealth, and this information is provided by the Commonwealth. Our partners are pretty thinly staffed right now, so we're essentially filling in that regard. The ATO has approved 16 new pre-apprenticeship programs, and 10 of which are high school and career technical centers. The program with the most potential, based on numbers, is the Junior Achievement of Western Pennsylvania, which covers 130 school districts, 265 high schools, and 65,000 students. The 16 approved pre-apprenticeship programs encompass 29 occupations, with the majority of the occupations in advanced manufacturing trades, followed by construction trades, early childhood education, and soft skills. For the period of enrollment, that is this past year, fiscal year, enrollment in approved pre-apprenticeship programs was conservatively reported at 854 in 50-plus state-approved pre-apprenticeship programs. Now, those are the stats. You'll see that pre-apprenticeship, youth apprenticeship, it seems as though the definitions vary a bit, and I would just like to propose just comparing a little bit with one of our neighbors to the south, Maryland. They have a youth apprenticeship program, which essentially for high school students working with local employers in occupations where they essentially participate for up to 450 hours of on-the-job learning. They receive a stipend, and most of those are essentially helping them and the employer to work their way towards registered apprenticeship. It's still an option for the employer down the line, but quite a number of the youth apprentices in that program have inspired their employers to register their programs as apprenticeship programs with the council. All right, I think that's it, unless there are any questions. I don't want to eat up too much of your time.
Hey, thanks, Ron. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you so much for setting the stage. Are there any questions from the audience before we hand it over to Aubrey and Audenried Charter High Schools? Okay. Aubrey, you want to take it away?
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Maria, Cassandra, Jim, and Ron. I'm going to share my screen. And we'll get started. Just give me a second. Can everyone see the screen okay? Yes, okay, thank you for those of you shaking your head and thumbs up. So we'll talk about youth apprenticeship at Universal Audenried Charter High School. So first, who's here? I'm Aubrey Caraglan. I work at Universal Audenried Charter High School. I am the academy coach is what they call it. So that's basically, what that means is I coordinate our career and technical education programs at the school. In terms of our funding, our partnerships, our students' industry experiences, I support the teachers to make sure that they can teach and they have everything that they need. We also have Dana here, who's our health-related technology instructor and our medical assistant instructor. We have Aramide here from Greater Philadelphia Health Action. She is the Chief Operating Officer. And Sarah is here, I think, dialed in, and she's the Chief Health Center Administrator. All of these fabulous people were really integral part of getting our apprenticeship, our pre-apprenticeship to apprenticeship off the ground. And so you'll get to hear from everyone in just a little bit. So I'll go over a short overview of our school, which I think will kind of set the stage for our apprenticeship. We'll talk about CTE at Universal Audenried. We'll then dive into our pre-apprenticeship to apprenticeship program, which is Certified Clinical Medical Assisting. And we'll hear from our employer partners at GPHA that are here today. We'll talk about where we are today, and we'll leave it open for some questions that any of you may have. So just to share a little bit about our school, I'm not sure where everybody is from, but I know not everyone's from Philadelphia and the surrounding area. So Universal Audenried is in South Philadelphia. A couple things about our school is that we are the first charter school in Pennsylvania to offer Pennsylvania Department of Education approved career and tech ed programs. It's a pretty big deal for us. In addition to the fact that we are a Renaissance charter school, meaning that we took our charter company, Universal Companies, in 2011, took over the school from the District of Philadelphia in order to manage and improve the school and the opportunities offered to students. The school at the time it was brand new, had a huge commercial kitchen, health lab, automotive shop that were not being used, and Universal Companies really came in, and we got those all up and running thanks to some key players, one of them who's here, Dr. Aniloff. In addition to, over the several years that we received so we're a turnaround charter, meaning, and also we're a Title I charter school, so all of our students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. And our school just received an award we're one of the best career and tech ed schools in the city, in addition to an award for improvement that we've made every year, which is pretty exciting for us and particularly our students and families that attend Audenried. We have 5 career and technical education programs. We have automotive engineering, commercial and advertising art, and health-related technologies. So these are 3-year programs, but what happens if you were a 9th grader going into high school, you would enroll into Audenried in the 9th grade. You would take all of your core education classes, your math, science, English, social studies. We have a freshman seminar course, and we also have a really important course for our school, which is called Entrepreneurial Studies. So the students take this course, and what they do is they do a lot of career research. So even beginning in the 9th grade, before they're even thinking about which pathway, they will spend a lot of time doing aptitude tests, career research, in order to make a choice for one of the 5 pathways that we offer. Because we want to make sure the students and the families are making informed decisions, because they will spend the next 3 years in that CTE pathway. It's a total of 1,080 hours of knowledge and skill instruction. In addition to, each program offers industry recognized credentials and the ability to earn college credit in that career and tech pathway. So we want to make sure students are choosing the right pathway. So thinking about CTE and apprenticeship, so Jim and Ron, Jim, you really set up kind of this idea of how career and technical education kind of dives and makes this seamless transition from career and tech ed to the apprenticeship model. Career and tech ed is already, you know, providing students with career-based knowledge and foundational knowledge that's industry specific. And incorporates skills, incorporates industry certification. And what career and tech ed already has is industry partners, so employer partners, which are one of the main keys to apprenticeship in general. And we have industry partners already established through our occupational advisory committees that inform all of our programs. Youth apprenticeship and apprenticeship in general and pre-apprenticeship has a related technical instruction component, and the skill and the on-the-job learning component. When you infuse that into career and tech ed, the students are already doing that skill training, but what apprenticeship does, it enhances through the on-the-job learning component and kind of creates this pipeline to that high skill, higher wage career. So by integrating this model of apprenticeship into CTE, it's really creating like a seamless pipeline for students and workforce development, especially you know, for our population of students is a high need population, and I think and one of the reasons we sought out apprenticeship is for this reason. So what we found a need for our students, right? So our 11th grade students, and many times 11th graders, are already thinking about their post-secondary options. So we wanted to think about the students who aren't necessarily college bound for whatever reason that may be, and kind of target this 11th grade population because they're starting to make the post-secondary decisions anyway. And so, you know, usually the focus is on the college bound student in the 11th grade. So let's, what we really decided to do is let's focus on our 11th grade students that are career bound or even potentially college bound that might want to be career bound if they can kind of see a pathway ahead of them that's leading to a high wage career. So we began meeting with Philadelphia Works, I think it was July 2018, to, you know, talk about different, we didn't even really know what apprenticeship was at the time. Philadelphia Works really kind of set the stage for us to understand apprenticeship and how we could integrate apprenticeship into our career and tech ed programs. So the program that we created is the Certified Clinical Medical Assisting Registered Pre-Apprenticeship to Apprenticeship Program. We'll just say CCMA. So our CCMA program, how do we come to this program, even though we have 5 different career and tech ed pathways? One of the first reasons, health-related technologies is our strongest program. We have phenomenal instructors for the program. It's our most popular program, so we have to have 2 instructors, right? Also, based on the data in Philadelphia, medical assistants are considered a high priority occupation with projected growth in just Philadelphia, 10.4% by 2026. And in the national numbers, MAs are listed as the 20th fastest growing career in the United States with projected growth of 29% by 2026. And most importantly, we had a really strong employer partnership already established with Greater Philadelphia Health Action, who had health centers in each one of our schools. So the partnership to create the apprenticeship included the employer, Greater Philadelphia Health Action. We are the sponsor. We are Universal Audenried in charge of reporting and oversight. We're also the related technical instruction provider. It worked that way for us that we could be both the sponsor and the provider. And that's done in our related technology, our Universal Audenried's health related technology pathway. And some of the supports that we got that allowed our program to come to fruition and be successful was the support of Philadelphia Works for the 1,000 questions that I had as we were starting the program. In addition to that, we were awarded a PA SMART grant for our first cohort. So funding for the first cohort was really helpful and important for us because what that allowed us to do, it funded a program director who was very well versed in registering pre-apprenticeships and apprenticeships with the state. So we were able to employ a program director, a program manager who was kind of the liaison between the instructor, the employer, and the sponsor. And really a wonderful part of receiving this funding to get this first cohort off the ground was that we were able to write into the grant that we would pay out of the grant the first 500 hours of the on-the-job learning for the employer. So the employer wouldn't have to be paying the apprentices those first 500 hours because we would pay them out of the grant, which was the great sell to the employer. All right, so let me just move my videos. Okay, so the program structure. So it includes 500 hours of classroom instruction at Audenried between the 11th and 12th grade, 2,041 hours of work-based learning on the job, and 60 hours credit due to the pre-apprenticeship before graduation, which equals roughly about 12 weeks at 5 hours per week. And again, those first 500 hours of OJL are paid through the grant. In order for it to be an apprenticeship, right? So we have step wage increases built in for competency attainment and mentor stipends. So the grant also paid for mentor stipends. So GPHA lead medical assistants would mentor the students who would be in charge of weekly mentoring, recording of hours, competencies, et cetera. And then we also have the built-in, the nationally recognized certificate for the certified medical assistant through the National Health Career Association. All right. So this is what kind of the timeline, right? So for our program in the spring of the 11th grade year, our students who are already in that health grade related technology pathway apply to the pre-apprenticeship. So we made this application process similar to what students would have to do if they were getting hired at a job. Included a resume, letter of interest, interview with a medical assistant instructor and the program coordinator. And then the fall of their 12th grade year, September to January, students are in the pre-apprenticeship, engaged in their related technical instruction, which is 2.5 hours a day. In January, what students apply to the apprenticeship, and that application process is actually with the employer, GPHA. So students would have to meet the requirements of applying for a job at GPHA because apprentices are essentially employees. In February, we conduct a mentor training. So we, GPHA identifies the lead medical assistant at the job sites. I think we were 3 different health centers we were working with. So there's mentors identified, and then we offer training, kind of what that includes, what the stipend is. And then in March, the students would begin the on-the-job learning at GPHA with that mentor support. And then from May, the senior year, to the completion really of the apprenticeship is the ongoing on-the-job learning. In May, the apprentices sit for their certification exam. And then again, from the completion of the apprenticeship, OJL with the built-in wage increases, they finish till they meet the required hours. All right, so before I turn it over to GPHA, I just wanted to, some of our successes and challenges with the first cohort. To be honest, we were off to just such a wonderful start. We had 15 pre-apprentices accepted to the program. 9 apprentices were eligible to move on with the employer and went through the whole hiring process. And then COVID happened, and we have a global pandemic, which put everything on hold. And it was just really the time was nuts, just because of March 16th, the 16th apprentices were going to literally walk in to begin their on-the-job learning. And March 15th, schools shut down and everything was put on hold. So that was our, honestly, our biggest challenge with our first cohort. So I have Aramide here and Sarah here, who both were extremely great employer partners in, because it was a lot of work and we were figuring it out as we went, with the help of, you know, some support from Philadelphia Works. But I wanted to, I'm so glad that Aramide and Sarah can both be here, just because they're very busy people at running, you know, GPHA pretty much. So I want to just turn it over. I'll start with Aramide. If you want to just share maybe a little bit about your experience as the employer working to develop the program and working with Universal Audenried, including kind of what your motivation was to join in and some of the challenges.
Thank you, Aubrey, and good afternoon to everyone. As Aubrey mentioned, my name is Aramide Ayarinde. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Greater Philadelphia Health Action. Just a bit about background about GPHA. We are one of the largest ambulatory care providers in the state of Pennsylvania and the surrounding states. We service about 87,000 active patients annually, and that equates to about 300,000 patient encounters, and is inclusive of medical, dental, and behavioral health services. We also have a school-based health services component, which is how we really developed our partnership with Audenried, where we come on site and provide the medical, dental, and behavioral health services to their scholars at certain intervals at their different locations. Our sites are throughout the city of Philadelphia and Delaware County of recently, and we have 11 sites throughout these areas. So our partnership again really started with trying to, because Audenried already had a health technology program, we thought it would be good if we can see if they were able to develop and start a medical assistance program. As an employer, we know that that's one void or area that we always are recruiting from, and how do we then build on a collaboration with an existing partner to strengthen that? So essentially building our pipeline to recruit from right within the communities that we serve. So that started our discussions with Audenried, and then this apprenticeship opportunity came along, and we then started developing how that will look for GPHA. For us, because we are highly regulated, one of the requirements of our organization is that the medical assistants that we hire be certified. And so therefore, how do we ensure that this apprenticeship opportunity allows for students at the completion of their pre-apprenticeship experience come out with a certification? So we built that timeline to include that. So that I think speaks volume to our commitment to, one, giving them the experience that they need from a pre-apprenticeship perspective, getting them acclimated to being in a professional setting, actually working with patients, also getting mentorship from our seasoned MAs. That way they kind of learn this I guess, tricks of the trade, so that when they are in an employment opportunity, then they know how to carry themselves and conduct themselves in a clinical setting. So it takes their practical or their learning experience environment and makes it more practical in how they apply what they've learned in the clinical setting. So then that was the beginnings of how this all started. And in terms of what motivated GPHA to participate in this apprenticeship program, I would start with our commitment to hiring in communities that we are embedded in. As I mentioned before, we have 11 sites throughout the city of Philadelphia. Many of our employees come from those communities that we are actually in. And in terms of numbers of employees we hire, we are an organization that has about 600 employees. So when you look at that, a big fraction or a significant number of that comes from our medical assistant pool. So it really was important for us to be able to develop and see how we can continue to feed right into that system based on our partners. So that was the first motivating factor. I would also say another one is just understanding that collaborations and partnerships are important, and how do we continue to build with existing partnerships. So naturally being embedded or providing school-based health services was a feeder to us, I guess, being attractive to the students. So they see us in action right within their environment. And of course, in trying to protect the confidentiality of the students there, naturally we want them away from that environment. And so the next best thing was to have them in our health centers, where they still get that experience without compromising the confidentiality of their I guess, the colleagues or their classmates as well. So just changing that environment, but still being able to provide them that opportunity. And then also the mentorship experience that we have for our staff. While many of them are leads, this partnership allowed them to also develop how to train others who don't have that experience already. So many times when we hire medical assistants, the leads are training individuals who've already had that certification. So this provided a little bit different experience in the sense that they'll be grooming and training and teaching someone who doesn't yet have that experience, and then showing them the ropes within the health center. And I think those will be our motivating factors to participate.
Great.
And then if we talk about some of the challenges, I think the biggest challenge from my perspective is more so ensuring that everything regulatory doesn't get compromised as a result of this process. So as part of this vetting process, of course, we had to consult with legal to make sure our hiring practices, because we have minors on site, potentially we could have minors on site at some point during the experience. How do we navigate through that? Again, we're highly regulated, so also ensuring that our regulatory bodies were okay with this change of scope. What would be a change of scope for us, and how do we navigate through that? And of course, our HR regulations, making sure that we are in compliance. So for me, that making sure all of those touch points were in place was very critical.
Great. Aramide, do you have anything else?
Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Sarah, who will speak on the experience from the clinical side of putting this together.
Sarah, are you here?
It looks like she's having trouble connecting to the audio right now.
Okay.
I could give her one more minute or so, and then if not, I could probably speak to her questions as well.
Okay.
Yeah, she's having technical difficulties joining in.
Yeah, while you're going, I'm really glad the way you're building in the certification, and I'd be really curious to see how that meshes as well.
Sarah, I just think I heard you.
Yes, but Aramide can answer the question first.
Okay, we can hear you well, and I'm sorry, can you repeat the question that was posed?
Yeah, so just basically if Sarah, you would want to share what the process was like for developing the work processes for the training.
Yes, I wanted to apologize in the first place because I'm actually on the site helping with COVID testing. So it's a little bit chaotic, I'm sorry, but happy National Apprentice Week. Thank you, Aubrey, for letting us join in and talk about our experience. So I wanted to say that based on our experience with this working with developing the OJT, I have to say that we always accepted a medical assistant to perform their rotation at GPHA. But it's very different when we are part of it, developing the training with Aubrey. After we have to learn all the terminology about PHL, about OTJ, what are the hours, pre-apprenticeship versus apprenticeship. We have to meet in a big group, and then we actually have to go back and talk to our team to really brainstorm and put into writing what competency that we expect from the medical assistant to go first, then what they need to know in the middle, and then towards the last, just based on our experience, because we've been working with medical assistants for 50 years. GPH has been around for 50 years. Our goal is not to just have them help us at the site, but to really train them and prep them for the real world first. I think the most challenging part is to really develop the training program within the schedule that we have the student at our location, and also making sure they meet their hours. But it's hard because every student learn at a different pace, learn at a different style. So I think with that interview process that Aubrey mentioned in January helped us tremendously, because we really need to know and determine the folks that have the heart and attitude, maturity, versus whether they have just the technical skills. So we have to really gauge each individual to see where they at and then prep them. So it was very disappointing for us that the group that we interviewed in January, we could not get to work with them because of the pandemic, but I think it'll be, with the extra time we had, we were able to work with Aubrey to, we stay in touch, and then we plan out what can we do for the next cohort. There are some motivation for us because we really need MA. We really need medical assistant. Aubrey mentioned in 2026, they expect a 29% growth. Honestly, we need it right now. We have Aramade mentioned, we have over 600 staff. Honestly, for medical, over 100 of them we are expecting to really help to be medical assistant. We're down to 70, and that's how COVID could impact. And having those medical assistants to be on the workforce could really help out. And in the past, being an RN student, I know it is so hard to really get a place to accept us and have us do the clinical rotation there, because we're pretty much a burden, pretty much a liability. So having GPHA being a welcome ground, a first step for the student to really get into out of the textbook and into the workforce is really make a difference for us. And it's really a way for us to get a sense of them. We had medical assistant student in the past. Over 90% of them, after they graduate, they apply to GPHA. And we had a successful onboarding with them because we already worked with them for 3 months, for 2 months. So it is a great way for them to know about GPHA and for us to know the individual. So I think it's just really good, and we are looking forward to the next cohort. And I think one thing that we don't really have to train because of COVID is the use of PPE and the universal precaution part. I think that they got this down because of COVID. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
And if I just add to what Sarah said, COVID has really in general impacted healthcare providers, and we certainly say for GPHA has really changed how we practice medicine. Who would have thought the healthcare industry would be one of the industries where people are asked to not come into the health centers as much as possible to ensure social distancing and make sure the environment is safe. So unfortunately, as my colleagues have mentioned several times over, COVID has really changed how we foresee this process happening and ongoingly how we've been operating as a health center. So we do look forward to hopefully starting that next cohort, and hopefully the conditions surrounding COVID and the limitations it's posed as an employer will also ease.
Great. Thanks, Aramide and Sarah. It's really been a pleasure working with both of you and GPHA. I think that from our standpoint, I'm pretty sure that's all we have on our end. And if anyone has any questions, I answered a question in the chat for everyone, but other than that, I think I can turn it back over to Maria and Cassandra.
Hi, everyone. I think this would be a great time for some questions and discussion. Does anybody have anything that you'd like to kind of explore more or get a better sense of sort of where they're at in the process? Okay. Oh, wait. There's some questions in the chat. Are there any alternatives to the OJL given COVID?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't have the answer to that necessarily. But one of the challenges I think we're facing even prior to OJL is that, and this might be kind of across the board, is that our school is all virtual at the moment. So our students usually are practicing their skills. They would have been practicing the spring of their, junior year and then throughout their entire senior year. So the skill training has been really difficult for us just because our students aren't in the building. Miss Ward, our RN and medical assistant instructors here, and one of the things that she's working on is creating take-home kits for our students to practice the vital signs and things like that, but not having the students face-to-face with the ability to practice in the health lab that we have, which is, state-of-the-art stuff, technology that meets the industry standards that they don't have access to at the moment. So I think as we work with GPHA over, the next couple months, that will be something that we'll have to talk about in terms of the OJL. The student mentoring.
Awesome. And then I really, really want to echo, thank you so much on the chat, Dr. Ayarinde, as well as Sarah, for your work supporting the community throughout the pandemic. And so I really, really want to say thank you to our partners at USDOL, Office of Apprenticeship, for joining, for setting the stage, for always being a partner, to Universal Audenried Charter High School, GPHA, and the Apprenticeship PHL group. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your partnership, participation, and service. As a quick reminder, the Apprenticeship PHL Symposium is happening on February 1st through the 12th. It's going to be 2 weeks of awesome seminars, small group chats, really exploring further how can we take this amazing tool and apply it to all of our settings, whether you're K through 12 educator or whether you're an employer trying to find a better pipeline. So this is really going to be awesome. Lastly, in the chat, I am placing a post-event survey. I'm really going to ask you guys to chime in and provide your feedback. It's a 5-question survey. It should take you 2 minutes. We want to continue having these types of events and conversations as we continue to think about how do we respond to the pervasive impact of COVID on our workforce and communities, but continuing to think about how can we creatively use apprenticeship as a tool to move the work forward. And so follow us on social media. Thank you again. And if any of you want to stay back and chat and have any further conversation, you're welcome to stay back. We'll be here. Thank you and have a wonderful day.